During the early 90s, only one company could challenge the juggernaut that was Nintendo, a certain game publisher called Sega. With the blue blur Sonic the Hedgehog at their side, they proceeded to fight them for dominance over the gaming industry. While in the beginning, they were able to have a fighting chance against Nintendo with their Sega Genesis, CD, and numerous other consoles. As the decade wore on, their popularity began to wane. With the introduction of the Sega Saturn to the world in 1995, and its subsequent lackluster response from the public, it seemed around the world that the company was reaching its end as a hardware developer. But in its home country of Japan, there was hope on the horizon. A franchise lost to the rest of the world would be there to save it, redefining a genre and taking a country by storm. The Sakura Wars were just beginning. Our story begins in 1994 with a phone call. President of Sega, Sorichio Iramajiri, was calling Oji Hiroi, a well-regarded writer and producer, as well as being the founder of game developer Red Company. Iramajiri wanted to fill the adventure game gap in the Sega Saturn's first-party lineup, and thought that Hiroi and his company were fit for the job. Hiroi would agree, and the two started to work at a furious pace, and soon had a mountain full of ideas. Hiroi's first contribution was a scroll of his own calligraphy, a poem he had made to set the tone of the project. Upon seeing a tabletop war game being played in the office, none like the ever-popular Dungeons & Dragons, the two decided to add tactical combat to their adventure game concept. Early on, they recruited legendary Japanese manga artist Kyosuke Fujishima to lend his sentimental style to the character designs, and Kohei Tanaka, known for his work on the One Piece series, as a composer to provide a fantastical score. Tanaka finished the theme song early, and it served a similar purpose as Hiroi's calligraphy, giving the team a symbol to take to heart. Fujishima himself brought aboard animator Hidenori Matsubara to help with a massive amount of in-game art and animated sequences. Futoshi Nagata was also brought on to provide the iconic retrofuturistic mecha designs the series is known for. Continuing the all-star recruiting, writer Satoru Akuhari was also brought on board to start on the scripts. Because Akuhari felt most comfortable writing anime scripts, he simply wrote in an episodic format, to the degree that at the end of each episode, there was a preview of the next one. This was known as an eye catch. A process soon developed. As Akuhari wrote, Hiroi edited, to make sure the script fit into his perfectionist vision of the game world. This led to the creation of 4 games worth of scripts, which were then aggressively pruned down to the very best material. The game would star Second Lieutenant Ichiro Ogami, who had just been transferred to Tokyo's secretive combat squadron, the Floral Assault Troop. What follows are what seems to be a bunch of mistaken coincidences. He meets Sakura Shinjuichi, a young girl who looks like she shouldn't be in the military, and follows her to the local theater at her own behest. After meeting some of the many main protagonists, he finds that he's been assigned to the theater as a ticket clipper. The group's name, Tekko Kekiden, is a play on words and can either mean Floral Assault Troop or musical theater troupe, so it seems at first that he's been sent there as a form of punishment. But as a crisis hits, the group reveals that it was all a ploy to make sure he was right for the job, and soon send him and his new team out to fight the occult threat of the Black Nest Society and their demonic summonings. And this is just the beginning of the game. But as they delved into their game's world and characters, it was soon time to look for the actors to play the roles. Securing a top-notch voice cast was crucial to the game's design, because music and stage performance were central to its theme. Oji Hiroi scouted many of the cast by going to live musical performances and looking for women who could really sing, rather than just going through standard voice acting agencies. He also sought out people who could speak as if they were singing. That is, people who had a lyrical quality to their voices, even when talking normally. This importance placed on the voice acting as evidenced by the precise synchronization of the on-screen portrait's mouth movements with the actual phonemes being spoken. The inspiration behind the game's world and setting was grounded in reality and idealism. Sakura Wars takes place in a romanticized alternate history version of 1920s Tokyo. Nothing says Taisho democracy like a Western-style musical theater interpreted with a Japanese sensibility. The Tekko Kakiden, or Imperial Review, is a musical theater troupe that serves as the protagonist's cover while they pursue secret military operations against the demonic horde. It is heavily inspired by the Takarazuka Review, a real-life theater troupe that has been performing in Kansai for the past century. Both perform spectacular Broadway-style musical theater. Both are all female, with some women specializing in male roles. Both are divided into subtroupes, including a Hanagumi, or flower troupe. This is the division that Ogami, the protagonist you play as, and the 6 other heroes belong to. The flower theme that comes with the title pervades the series, with all the characters being named after flowers. Sakura is named after the cherry blossom flower, Iris the iris flower, Samaria a type of violet flower, Maria a type of citrus flower, Kana the Kana lily, Koran the crimson orchid, and so forth. The series itself is inspired by the Taisho era, resting exactly between World War I and World War II. Japan enjoyed increased importance and recognition in international affairs. Its urban citizens became more prosperous, cultured, modern, socially aware, independent, and cosmopolitan. Ever the optimistic romantic, Taisho democracy to Hiroi represented the starting point for an ideal future for Japan. He wished to rewind to that moment in history before Japan's loss of innocence in World War II, to a time when Japan was an eminent member of the world community on its own terms, just as much as our cultures and Europe's. Everything in Sakura Wars is infused with this Taisho era flair. Text in the scene is written right to left, as was the custom of the day. Even the game's manuals are printed with their spines on the right, since left spine books wouldn't be around for a while. In some games, even numbers are written in kanji instead of the modern-day Arabic numerals. This Taisho aesthetic permeates the design, topography, music, and dialogue. This mostly authentic Taisho-era setting is combined with absurdly advanced steam-powered machinery and Ryoku, or spirit power. This spirit power our protagonists wield powers the series' iconic mecha, or Kobu, as they are called. This is what makes Sakura Wars unique. The series' tactical combat took insight from tabletop role-playing games, but also from popular video games of its time, such as Tactics Ogre. Using a grid-like system and isometric view, the player had a set number of actions to use each turn. Instead of commanding an army, a party of 7 was in the player's control. Instead of worrying about how much of an army you have, it was replaced with health bars and magic meters. That is not to say that the strategy was completely torn away. With only 2 moves per turn, you had to plan ahead to make sure they were used well. Traditional experience was also thrown out in favor of having your decisions in the rest of the game affect your party's performance. Outside of combat, however, Sakura Wars' trademark LIPS, or Live Interaction Picture System, is the main gameplay standpoint. As you wander the Imperial Theater during the day and night, you come across all the game's colorful characters. Whereas in other visual novel type experiences, you would just sit and watch a story unfold, this time it was your job to determine the outcome. A variety of lips exists in the Sakura Wars world, but in general you would be given 3 options and a timer. Choosing the correct choice is crucial, as choosing poorly could affect your relationship with one of the characters. This hybrid of visual novel and strategy gaming formed its own new genre, dramatic adventure. Instead of being solely about the dating aspect, the game became more about its story and characters. Learning the psychology and motivations of the characters became crucial. Sakura is afraid of lightning, Iris wants to be older, Maria is scarred by the death of her own captain, etc., etc. This is what makes them so memorable for people who play the games. With all the pieces in play it was time to unleash their series onto their own little world. Unbeknownst to them, the results would be staggering. What had at times seemed like an overly ambitious project, doomed to failure, ended up being a huge hit, selling out on the morning of release. As the Sega Saturn began to fail in the West, the East said differently, selling a whopping 550,000 units in its initial run. The original Sakura Wars cemented itself as an instant success and a classic Sega series among the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog and others. Sakura Wars was a fully blown phenomenon, one that Sega had not expected. With a new icon on their side, it was time for Sega to take back Japan from the other companies that had run past it. On the surface, Sakura Wars looks like your average dating simulator. However, if one were to take the series at face value, they would miss out on what makes it truly unique. Its worldview embraces absurdity, sentimentality, and nostalgia. Its pride and joy, however, are and have always been its characters. The series' unapologetic Japanese sensibilities have made it simultaneously aloof and exotically fascinating to audiences in Japan and here in America. Now all Sega had to figure out was how to replicate it for a second time. Tune in next time to see lightning strike twice. Well, hello, my fellow Noggineers. If you did not already know, my name is Chris, and I run the channel Tamidus, among others. I recently did a documentary starring Loxton, which you can find here, about YouTubers and the lives they live. After working with him, Austin gave me the chance to make my own series, so here we are with the Chronicles of Gaming. If you like the series, be sure to check back right here on the Gnoggin channel for brand new episodes of Blossom and other ones based on other video game series. You can check out my main channel here for more content revolving around games, films, and a plethora of other things, along with a playlist for my series and my exclusive channel based entirely on the Sakura Wars series, if you'd like to know more about it. Anyway, that's it from me. Don't forget to stay awesome, viewer, and continue the thirst for knowledge.